Nightmare fans, Diandra here.
And Paige.
And we've got a really special episode of Elm Street Radio. First of all, we're actually in the same room.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
No more hitting mute on a phone?
No. No more weird hair, like psh, 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 although there might be some chair creaking.
Yes,
That's
there might
almost
be a chair
guarantee.
creak.
But what's making this episode so special is that it's actually serving two purposes. One is to, well, entertain all of you, and the other one is just kind of to talk about each other's life and our love of A Nightmare on Elm Street and how we got to know each other. Like, this is us just basically interviewing each other and talking, talking.
I don't think we've ever really shared the story of our friendship. I think that we've made comments here and there or in interviews, like we've talked briefly about it, but I don't think we've ever really talked to our audience about how we became friends and how this whole crazy world, how we all got started in it.
Yeah, and we did. Like, I went online in 2008 on the Nightmare Companion forums, aka nightmareonelmstreetfilms.com, and that's where I met Paige for the first time, still as the Paige-alicious. But I remember she was like my first friend, and it was great because I went on those forums practically knowing nobody. First of all, had two names. One was Nancy Thompson 1428, and the other one was Mrs. Freddy Krueger, and everyone was like, "You're the same person." So then I chose Nancy because Nancy's so awesome. And I remember, I think, Paige, you were the only other girl there.
Yeah, for a while there, it was like a male-dominated forum, and I'd found the forum through, I believe it was the films. It was on the box, and I was like, oh, go here to learn more about the films, and so I did. And there was a forum, and I had never even heard of a forum. I never knew what a forum was, and so I lurked around for a long time, and then I created an account, which was the Paige-alicious, and I was in there, but it was a lot of like guys, and there were some like good discussions, and there was some like crassness because it was men, and then here was this Nancy Thompson who would bring up all of this love for Nancy, but all of these like valid points about Nightmare, and I was like, who is this person? Like, and so we just started talking on there, and once I found out that you were like a little bit younger and, that you were in high school, and I felt very protective. I was like, oh no, like I'm not going to let, like I'm not going to let them, exactly. Like I'm not going to let them corrupt her. Cut to 10 years later, she's corrupting herself. But no, and so that's how it kind of started. You were just so insightful on Nightmare, and I felt like, wow, like it was so good to talk to somebody who understood the character of Nancy Thompson and understood the love and appreciation for the films.
And Paige was, not only were we were the only two girls, but we were also the two girls who happened to be just super huge Nancy fans, like Nancy fans above everything else. And yeah, we talked, and then we moved on to Facebook, and became friends there, and we just kept talking back and forth through the forums and through Facebook, and we were like, when are we going to meet? When are we going to meet? And then in 2012, it finally happened at Days of the Dead in Chicago.
I had never really heard of conventions before, and we were originally supposed to meet at Days Indie, and I was like super excited, and I won a contest at work to have the weekend off, and I ended up not getting the weekend off, and I was super disappointed. And then when Days of the Dead Chicago was happening, I was like, okay, I live in Chicago. This is the one that I have to go to, and you were going to be there, and some other people were going to be there, and it was exciting to like show up and get there. And we were talking earlier about the funny story of how we met in person. So I'm like getting ready and get dressed, and I know that everyone's there, and everyone's like messaging, we're here, and I'm like, I wonder if Diandra's here yet. And so I get down, I get off the elevator, and I turn right at the elevator, and I see this big curly hair, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Diandra. And you turned around and you just looked at me with this look on your face of like such sadness. And you're like, my Nancy broke.
I had a Nancy necklace that was made out of like clay, and it was the first, because back during this time, since those like what, mid 2000s, there's been a lot more Nancy stuff, but it was like so rare. So I bought this Nancy necklace and had her in her little pajamas and this gray streak, and I was so excited to wear it. And I had my What Would Nancy Do shirt on, the black one that Heather sold on her I Am Nancy site, and Nancy's head popped off. And I was so distraught. I did not know what to do with myself. And lo and behold, turned around, and there was my hero, who happened to tell me she had glue in her room.
I was like, I have super glue in my room. Let's go up there. I was like, and I have a gift for you. And so we went up to my room and like super glued Nancy's head back on. And it just was like a test of like the friendship. Like we had never met in person before, and here you are, like, coming up with some strange girl to, like, glue Nancy's head back on your necklace, and that's just kind of how it's been ever since. We've been gluing Nancy heads on.
We've been fixing a lot of crap.
But it was great, and that convention was fun, and I feel like that's where it was like, all right, we can do this. And then we started going to other conventions together and traveling, and then went to Florida.
Yeah. And Paige made this amazing Freddy Krueger snake head from part 3, because she was dressed as Kristen and I was dressed as Nancy from the very same scene in part 3. And we go out and we show Heather Langenkamp, for those of you who might be like, Heather who? God knows, if you're listening to this podcast and that's what you thought, maybe, welcome to enlightenment. And she just started doing this photo shoot with us. Paige is on the ground like, no, oh no. And I'm like, and Heather's like, stab it in the eye, Diandra, stab it in the eye.
All I know is I'm laying on a floor in a Freddy snake that everybody at that convention thought was a garbage can.
That's right, they did.
I'd have it standing up next to me, and people would just randomly start throwing stuff. And I'd be like, it's not a garbage can. I'm laying on the floor in this garbage can phallic-looking Freddy head, and Deandra's stabbing it with a broken mirror, and Heather's taking video of it and picture. And there's cameras all around
People
us.
gathered. They were like, what is going on? And lo and behold, there was the two of us.
Yeah. I feel like it was in that moment that I knew what we had was lightning in a bottle. Because if in costume we could do something like that, it was fun. It was so much fun. And
what else could we do?
It was crazy. And then you actually got me into costuming. I did not understand cosplay at all. I didn't understand it. I admired what you guys were doing, but I was like, okay, I don't really get it. And it was you who said, well, I think you'd be a good, Alice or a good Kristen. And I was like, I really do like the character of Kristen Parker. I really feel like I could do that. And once I took my first set of pictures, it was like an addiction. I was like, oh my God, I totally understand now the art of like creating the costume and doing the research. And it was almost like a form of theater. Yeah. And I loved it. And without that, I don't feel like I would necessarily have kind of the life that I have now without doing that. It was pretty cool and pretty eye-opening. I always give you credit for that because I would have never done it. I never understood it until it was in front of me and you.
It is very different. And I don't know why I did it. I guess I just always, people wear, shirts of things they like, but costuming is something that's so much more of like a living fan art, just to becoming the character and walking around and having people say, it's like going to Disney and everybody wants to line up to meet. Please don't say Elsa. Anybody but Elsa. But, it's not really them, but it's still in that moment, like there's that physical embodiment and you just feel so connected to this person that you love. And it's like this beacon of, hey, I love this character. Come talk to me about it. And it really is. It's very entertaining and it really is a craft. I could never do like you did. Like your sculpting and your painting. The most I ever did was probably glue something onto pajamas, and that was basically it. But you had this talent of being able to take paper mache and build it into, I mean, I'm sitting here right next to a Freddy Krueger house modeled after the one that Kristen built in part 3, and Paige made this thing. I wouldn't know the first thing about making this thing, but Paige is able to make stuff. And then a couple years later, she creates this totally badass Jennifer cosplay that has people stopping in their tracks. It's huge, okay? She's got her outfit on and her hair crimped, and she's like always taking pictures of her screaming, but this thing is on this giant pole with a TV up top, Freddy's head coming out of it with the arms holding onto her that she like ties them to her, and she's walking around and everybody's like, that is so badass. And it was. Nobody had ever seen anything like that before, and you killed it.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I would have never done this had it not been for you. One of the things that you did to like inspire me with all of this was you were so meticulous in your costuming. And I remember early on, talking even just about the flowers on, Nancy's pajamas. Things just had to be a very specific way. And I admired that so much. We were at some convention. I can't remember which one it was. And it was back when you were doing the heroes, and you had Nancy's blue jacket with the tongue phone.
Oh, yeah.
And the inside of it was lined.
It was exactly like it. Now, it was a kid's jacket, so it was a schmidgen schmall, which I did not know when I ordered it, but it fit me. But the inside, the way the pockets were, it was, I couldn't believe it. Sometimes you just never know. So the two things that I think I found that were the most incredible were that blue jacket, spot on, and the other one was the vest from New Nightmare.
Yes.
The way that those pockets were was so exact, and even the back of it, the way it kind of had those little ties in the back. Sometimes you just get lucky. I mean, I wish I could make things. It's on my list of things to do, but
you're so good at everything else. Like, that's the beauty of it. I have to say, out of all of the costumes that you've done, of course, the Nancy pajamas will always hold a place in my heart because of Don't Fall Asleep. No, that's really what it is. But my favorite is New Nightmare Nancy.
That's mine too.
If you have not experienced Diandra in costume at a convention, you are missing out because she's in her element. There was nothing better than watching her run down the hallway saying, "Have you seen my son? Have you seen my son?" And it's like, it was a spot on, thing. And even moving past, Nightmare, when we went to Spooky Empire and you were dressed up like Lana Parrilla, Regina from Once Upon a Time, it was intimidating to see, in a good way. It was intimidating to see the amount of people that were coming up to you, even the actors. Like, how did that feel for you to, like, have all these people just be in shock at how you just embodied this character? They really thought you were Lana Parrilla, and that was freaky to me. They were, like, congratulating you.
I know, they were congratulating me on Once Upon a Time. It was really, for me, scary, I guess. I mean, I will be honest, when you're in costume and people are coming up to you and complimenting you and saying how much they love it and wanting to take a picture with you, it is a bit of an ego boost. That one was really different. Because it was like a conflict, because I was dressed as one character for the first time at a horror convention that was not Nancy. That was rather not a horror character, because I'd been Kirsty Cotton before, but I mean, it was, these people were just flocking. It was scary. It was mostly because of the things they were saying, like, you should steal that one girl's outfit. Oh my God, you should mess with people. And it was very, very different. All I can say is that it was intimidating. It was very, very intimidating. But I think when you dress in costume, you kind of, I guess, expect that, but not to that extent. Not to that extent, but I guess I just got lucky with choosing to cosplay. Because, I mean, one thing to think about when people cosplay is cosplay is all about the fun. It doesn't matter what you look like. It really doesn't matter your shape, size, color, what hair you have. It's all in a matter of you loving this character, wanting to portray this character, and having fun doing so, and having other people connect with you over it. But I've always, over the years, wanted to cosplay as people that I had some kind of identity, like something that I identified with that character. So that's just been kind of how I've rolled. What about you? I mean, what about Kristen Parker? And you portrayed two Kristen Parkers. You portrayed Patricia's and Tuesday's. How was that going back and forth? I mean, did you feel different even dressing as them?
I did, and I intentionally did something different between the two. And so the Dream Warriors Kristen, her bangs are a little bit different than the Dream Master Kristen. And so I decided to not wear a bang at all to differentiate the two. And then when I was doing the Dream Master, I had the burns all up my arm. Because, I mean, some girl in a white dress carrying a Freddy house, you're not going to really know, who she is. But I figured if I at least had the burns on it. And I really, honestly, I dressed as Nightmare 4 Kristen to honor Tuesday night. And I love Tuesday in that role. And I feel like she's taken it on in a different way than Patricia Arquette did. So I almost look at Kristen as two different, two different characters. But it was fun. Like the reaction to the Freddy snake was fun. But I never really fully understood your world until I was dressed up as Jennifer Caulfield. And when we were at the convention in the middle of the floor, it was almost like you and I were swarmed. And it was like...
Tell them about who came up to you. Tell them about that story. It's on video.
It's on video.
So it's awesome.
So we just got swarmed. And so when I say swarmed, there's a picture of us floating around where we have that face, because we literally I was like, you're the only person who could understand what I'm going through right now. And so I was like, I need a break. I was like, we gotta walk away. So we're piddle-palling away, and we're carrying this heavy TV, and we're standing in the middle of the room, and all of a sudden you guys all start freaking out, and you're like, turn around. I'm like, what? I can't turn around. And all of a sudden I turn around, and there is Robert Englund standing right there. And he says, I heard about this. This is amazing. He goes, have you shown Heather yet? Has Heather seen it? And I'm just in shock that, first of all, Robert Englund is standing there, and that he's complimenting my costume. And he's like, this is just brilliant. And then as he walks away, he shouted, welcome to prime time, bitch. And it was the best moment in costume. And then later on, I was signing up for the costume contest, and he came again right behind me, and he's like, welcome to prime time. And and it was just, I loved it. I loved it. But it was like you said, it's very overwhelming having them come to you. It's so great.
Yeah.
But it was whoa,
yeah, it's like you can't move a couple inches without somebody being like, can I get a picture? And you're like, yes. And you don't, I mean, it is kind of draining, but can you imagine being these stars at the conventions too? Like Robert walking by.
Yeah.
People would be like, Robert. I mean, day after day, no wonder they look like death on Sunday.
Yeah. Sunday is the day that you don't want to get your picture at a convention because they're exhausted. They're like, okay,
It's usually the day that people skip costuming too. They're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm so done.
But you also costumed Sydney Prescott.
I did.
You ran into...
That same costume. Yeah.
You did. You ran into Ghostface.
I did. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. And I got a message later from the guy who apparently was that Ghostface, and he's like, oh, that's me. It's like when you post the photos on Instagram or Facebook, that's one of the good things about the internet. I mean, I think this whole conversation is just such a good talk about the internet and what the internet can do, because we met through the internet. We've
100%.
maintained friendship through the internet. We've been able to do so much over the internet, and then you're able to connect with other people because maybe you saw them in passing at a convention or something of that nature. It's just like this network of people. And now with Fred Heads, I feel like we're going back and forth. Like there's so much to talk about. That network is really kind of electrified.
I love the social media aspect of the horror community and specifically the nightmare community, because that's through you I met Taylor, I met Anthony, and then through them I've met other people like Brittany and and then Kim, and although I didn't meet Kim on social media. Kim is so against social media. But that's how it is that you see somebody online and you see them interacting with each other, and then all of a sudden, boop, boop, you got a friend request.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, I saw you comment on this. I really loved that. And then you just build a friendship with them. And this community in particular, we're so opinionated on things in a good way. And so it sparks a really deep conversation with people. And then instantly you're like, well, I really like this person. I connect with them. So you become friends with them. And then sometimes you're fortunate to see them at conventions. I call conventions our adult summer camp for horror nerds.
They are.
And it's because literally we get to go away for a weekend and see all of these people that we wouldn't see any other way, because we're all friends online. And I'm so thankful for that, because if we didn't have social media, we have our phones to text each other, but we really get to see each other's lives and really get to see like, oh, wow, you went to that coffee shop. How was that? Or, or, oh my God, I got this new shirt, and you like post it online, and it just is, it's a beautiful thing. And I feel like for you, one of the things that I always say is that you came into the Nancy and Nightmare world like at the right time, like right when social media started booming, and you just like it flourished on it. And I mean, some people, like in the past, we've heard people say, well, like, oh, it's luck. I could have done this, I could have done that. But I look at you and I look what you did, and it's hard work, it's dedication, and it wasn't easy. You've built this whole thing. I love Nancy. There are people out there who love Nancy so much, and we all love Nightmare, and nobody's a bigger fan than anybody.
Nope.
But I really feel like with the boom of social media and your personality and your networking, I feel like you've really kind of changed the game on a lot of stuff and really brought Nancy to the forefront. It was I call it lightning in a bottle for a reason, because social media had just started. Here is this girl who embodies Nancy, not just looks like her, not can just act like her. She embodies Nancy, and then boom, here is the I Am Nancy documentary come out. And so it's like all those things lined up, and it just kind of exploded from there, And so I think that social media, it's so prevalent and important. I feel like I could talk forever about it.
No, it's true. I mean, things can really change with social media. I mean, in more ways than one, it changes your life. So many people have been impacted by not only fandom, but also certainly social media through this. I mean, so many doors have been opened for people. I definitely credit Nightmare and the horror world and social media with where I am now, where I moved, everything. It's like you were saying, I mean, it's just all these people are connecting, and like we've said before, I'm closer to you than I am to anybody ever in any other aspect of my personal life. Some of my best friends from when I was young, nothing. They do not know this Diandra. They know another Diandra. They might know a little bit of the true self, but you guys, all of my closest friends in the horror world know me better than anybody. And it's very liberating. I'm sure, maybe you guys have heard it. I know I've heard it. I know, Paige, you've heard it. But people saying, I thought I was alone. I thought there was nobody else out there like me. And this is just a way to open it up. And I know that when I first started going online to cosplay, that was all I wanted was, hey, is there anybody else out there like me? Is there anybody else out there who likes this character? Do you guys want to talk about Nightmare? I mean, it was just constantly wanting to connect with people. And I'm so thankful that we have done that, because, I mean, just look over the years how things have evolved. So friendships in the beginning, and discussions continued, branching out, Don't Fall Asleep, and now Fred Heads. Like, for you as the director, I mean, for you, I know how much you love storytelling. And now because of the internet, you've had the opportunity to like be like, you know what? I'm going to put this into action. I'm really going to utilize this tool. So like for you, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So I have to say, the beauty of social media, the best compliment I think I have ever gotten in regards to all of this stuff is my sister saw a picture of all of us when we were in Virginia last year, and it's our whole little group just laughing, and my sister, who has witnessed me go through a lot of stuff, said to me, "You just look incredibly happy." She's like, this is your life. These are your people. And I said, I am really happy. And I have a lot of friends that I have grown up with. I have, really close friends back home in Chicago. But in that moment, she's like, this is your true self. This is who you are. You're just so happy. And it was the best compliment I ever got. And from these group of friends that I have and you guys that I talk to like every day and talk to more than anybody else in my life, it has really brought me to a level of wanting to create something and create an outlet. And that's really where Fred Heads kind of came from. Fred Heads came from the idea that one franchise, one film could impact somebody's life so much and really change somebody's life. And I thought, if this film and this franchise could literally change my life, I've met my best friends out of it. I've met my boyfriend out of it. I've moved across the country. I've met tons of friends and fans online. If one person is affected by it, there's got to be others. And as when we go to these conventions, so many people come up to us and to say, oh my God, I love your costume. And then they start talking to you.
Yeah.
And they start saying, this film really changed my life, and I'm sure you've heard it with Dressing as Nancy Nancy taught me to be into survival. Yeah. And it's a very powerful thing. And to be able to, have a platform to do that is great. But the way that I look at it as, directing it and taking the charge of it. The way that I look at it is giving others a platform. Mm-hmm. We could so easily make it just about one person or following around you or just following around Jeremy. Yeah. But it's the fact that we've opened it up really worldwide to the fans.
Worldwide, multi-generational.
Yeah, and we the one convention we were at, what were we seeing? We were seeing like 4-year-olds who were telling their story, and then like people who were like 60 telling their story. Yeah. And I think that giving them a platform has really been good for the soul and really made me realize this is what I want to do.
And I think one thing that a lot of people have is a misunderstanding about what it is to be a fan. And people are like, oh, you're just crazy. This is stupid. Why don't you move on? I know that I felt it personally over the years. I remember when Wes Craven died, I was crying in the basement. And I wanted to put up some of my Halloween decorations in August because of that. And my mom was like, what are you doing? You're crying? You didn't cry this much over your grandfather, which, by the way, yes, I definitely did. But Wes Craven really launched Nightmare. And in doing so, created this culture, this network of people, all of these life-changing experiences. And so, yes, I definitely cried over that. And I've seen my mother over the years as I've explained to her and taken her on this journey through the evolution of the internet and educated her on what it means to be a fan and what is possible with fandom. Because fandom is not just something that you have and that's it. And you just sit there with this. it has meaning to people. It has the potential to really be a catalyst for them to be happy. And that's why I love Fredheads. I think it's going to open so many, I mean, I love Fredheads for a lot of reasons, but it's going to open a lot of eyes to what fandom can really do for people and really truly how it makes a difference to people. And somebody might be like, well, I don't need that. Well, that's fine. That's you. But maybe you have another outlet. Maybe it's bowling. I mean, maybe it's something else that you like to do that makes you happy. But this makes people happy. And people's lives are really changing. And Fredheads is really bringing this to life, this culture that we know about fandom, about A Nightmare on Elm Street, and how this franchise has impacted people's lives because we have felt it. And now it's really time to tell those stories in depth and really get a first-hand look at the life of a fan. And so I am so excited to see where this continues to go, and so excited that it's happening. And I know some other documentaries out there think it's a good idea too, because they're making it happen. But
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I have to say that now, going into the direction that we're going now, it's fun. And you know, we're traveling and doing all sorts of things. And this next upcoming year is really about us putting this together. You've bought some new tools to film with. So pro. And we're all traveling. We're going to different conventions. Mm-hmm. We're going to different people's houses to interview them, different functions. I know you all over like Central Ohio. You're like traveling around doing things, you know,
Mm-hmm.
putting up flyers and talking to so many people, you know, hey, have you heard of Fredheads? Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
I love that we've built this team, and to think that it started with 5 of us. Like, our team started with 5 of us. Me, you, Kim, Anthony, and Taylor.
Yeah.
And the fact that it now has grown to so many people. And everyone on our team has felt the same way that we have felt, where they have been like, I'm just so gracious to be on the team. I'm just so, and we're like, come on board. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody wants to be on our team. We're like, come on board. Somebody messaged me yesterday and said, I'm going to be at this area. You know, I would love to like hand out some flyers. And I said, for sure, before you go, let us know. Yeah. We'll send them to you. And I think that this next year is going to be so influential. We have so much stuff coming up that I'm so excited about. And just like even currently, you're in town, and me, you, Jeremy, and Dave are driving to go meet another person that you have talked to on social media. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
For the first time. Am I allowed to say who it is? I mean, I'm sure they'll find out, but I don't know. I mean,
I'm sure they'll find out. We're going to post pictures.
So by the time this comes out. So it's Anders Ericsson, who you guys might know from Nightmare Gloves. I met Anders a long time ago through the internet. Actually, I cannot remember the full details. I just remember that I have, and I guess I don't want to really talk about it here because I want to really talk about it in Fredheads. Mm-hmm. But basically, we've been trying to meet each other for a very long time, and we've stayed friends online and stayed in contact. And tomorrow's the first time. It's just never worked out before, but tomorrow's the first time when it's really going to happen. And I can't wait. But I have a question for you, Paige.
Okay.
So Fredheads has been filming for quite some time, and I know earlier at dinner you had made a point about having learned lessons from working on Fredheads. As a director, what are some of the things you've learned about making a movie, but also then, even as a fan, what are some of the things you've learned maybe about the community that is new to you after all this time?
So with directing, the one thing that I have learned is it's good to have a plan. It's good to have an outline. It's good to have structure. But sometimes you just have to let things flow and go natural. When we first started with Fredheads, I had an exclusive shot list that I wanted certain types of footage that I wanted to get. It was things that were important for sure to the documentary and stuff that naturally would have came, but I had this vision in my head. And I guess coming off of directing a film, I thought that's what it had to be. You know, I have to make sure that this is lined up, and this is lined up. But when filming a documentary, that's not what happens. You know, filming a documentary, you set out initially, this is the core, this is what we're doing. And then over the course of a year and a half of filming, the story has changed. You know, initially we were going to have it be a cast, and it was going to be about these cast and these people, and it was just going to be their stories, and, you know, with a few fans sprinkled in. And what it's evolved to is something totally different. It's evolved into about the people making the films. And as a director, I've had to kind of learn to let things happen. I've had to learn to allow the process to work itself. And it's so funny saying that, because you hear directors say, it's the process. And I never understood that until this year. We hit some hardships with the documentary, and then we had scheduled some interviews, and we went to these interviews, and I went into the interviews happy because I like interviewing people. But it was in that moment that I saw, like, our friendship that we have, but it was somebody else, and I saw their friendship and how they were reacting and the camaraderie that they had, and it reminded me of why we were doing the documentary. And at that point I said, you know what? We're just going to let it go. You know, we're going to let Diandra interview somebody, and we're going to let Jeremy interview somebody, and instead of it just being a straight on shot of them, we're just going to let that go. And we're just going to make it real. And we're just going to show the friendships of people. And so when the Anders interview came up, Deandra's like, I've got to be there for Anders. I was like, you better bet your ass you're going to be there for the Anders interview, because it's so important to show that moment of friendship. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited. By the time this comes out, we'll have seen it and we'll have known. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. But I'm so excited for that moment, because it's going to be a raw, real moment. It's not going to be a setup. So tell me why Nightmare on Elm Street means so much to you. You know, it's going to be just a conversation between the two of you. And that's really what I'm excited for. And as far as what I've learned from the fans, they're very opinionated. That's what I've learned. But they're very supportive. I thought this community was supportive, and then this past year has really shown me what Nightmare fans have. What about you? What have you experienced with Fred Heads, and what have you learned this year from fans and the community?
Gosh. Well, one of the things is a lot of details about what needs to go into filmmaking, like get stuff in writing. Definitely be prepared for things not to work out as you planned or hoped. And the thing is definitely, you know, how supportive a lot of people can be. And sometimes people might not agree with your choices, and things are artistic choices. And, you know, as unbiased as people sometimes try to be in their storytelling, sometimes, you know, it's still not enough for people. And that's okay. I mean, you apologize and you move forward, but, you know, because this is so much bigger than even our expanded group of people. I mean, as we talked about earlier, it's multi-generational and people all over the world with, you know, life-changing stories. So it definitely this year made me kind of step back a little bit and be like, whoa, you know, this is incredible. It really is so much bigger. And just hearing from the fans all their different stories about how they've been impacted. Everybody. We all might say, you know, when I was 4, but, you know, when I was 4 might start with a babysitter. It might start on your own. It might start off with, I wasn't a fan at first. And everybody has so many unique stories. And everybody has a different way of telling them, and they all got something from it. And I think over the years, over the year rather, but even over the years,
Yeah.
because we've talked to a lot of people, you just more and more it opens your eyes to the world around you, because it's really important to learn and to be open-minded, which is why when I recorded with Mark the episode about the Nightmare remake, everyone's like, oh no, shut up about it. I think I've matured over the years as a person and as a fan, and so I was able to look at it in a different light and did have some changes of opinion in certain areas. And so I think that that's really important, and it's important to get out there and talk to people and to have an open mind, because the world is much bigger than you.
100%. I agree. That has been in my head probably for, I would say, since Scarefest. Scarefest was the eye-opener for me and for a lot of us. That convention was amazing. It was so much fun. But hearing the fans' stories and seeing all the interaction with everybody, it really made me realize this is so much bigger than us. And I never realized how big this was and how important this is. And that's why it was so important to let go of me wanting things so structured. You know, it was so important to just let it go and allow the process to really happen. And what we've gotten now because of it is so much more authentic. It's so much more beautiful. It's just real. And what has come from this and what is coming from the Fredheads, it's just great. Like, I'm excited to start building teasers and excited to do more interviews and have us be on the road. You know, tomorrow we're driving 4 hours. Like, I'm excited for that. You know, it's an exciting thing, and I don't feel as much pressure as I did in the beginning. And I'm very thankful and supportive for the team that I get to work with every single day. You guys are the backbone, because I would not be able to do half of the stuff or even a quarter of the stuff that I do if it wasn't for the people that I get to work with on a team. You know, we're a unit, and I'm so proud and thankful to be on this unit. Venn bitches for life, yo.
Yo, coming together, making the Venn diagram, all these brilliant minds in the little nice area in the middle.
And that's right. So with that being said, what do you have coming up this year? What are some things for you that you want to talk about? Anything exciting you want to let Elm Street Radio know about? Or
some stuff, yes. some stuff for me. Some is in the air. Some were just kind of like, oh, yes, would love to do that. Yes, absolutely. And then filming, which I am so jazzed about. So many conventions, so many new opportunities to get this out there. So that's some of the big stuff for me.
What about Elm Street Radio? I was going to say, what are your...
you, Paige?
I was like,
talk about you first.
I was like, what about your plans with Elm Street Radio? For me, my focus is Fredheads. I want to get this done. I want to do it right. And I have a small project that I'm doing, like a film. It's an anthology film about heartbreak, and it's called Crushed. But I just really want to focus and finish Fredheads. I really feel like that deserves all my attention right now, and it is all my attention. 3 a.m, Diandra will get text messages. Do you like this footage? Kim will get text messages. Do you like this font? Do you like, Crystal will be like, can you post this? It really, and they're all sleeping. And then they get the text messages in the morning. It really is taking a lot of my attention in a good way.
And I don't think people always realize that. They're always like, it's an overnight success. It's so much more than that. You have no idea maybe what goes into this.
Even when we did Don't Fall Asleep.
It's amazing. Oh my God, Don't Fall Asleep.
We were, a lot of times, Diandra and I were texting back and forth until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And it was is this hue look great? What about this? And partially a lot of that is my excitement with things. I get very impatient, so I want to put it out there,
Yeah.
but it really does take a lot of work behind the scenes, you know, things that people just don't even really think about that goes into filmmaking. I never knew we had to have an attorney.
Yeah.
I thought we could just turn our phones on and start filming people.
Let's do it. Yeah.
You know, I never realized that we needed things like microphones.
Yeah.
That's pretty
You know,
big.
or like sound editing, somebody to even merge sound with video, or God forbid, if the sound appears to come out like you're in a fishbowl. How are you going to correct that?
You mean like this? Is it like that? Like that? Yeah. There's Springwood Slasher.
Freddie.
Which we had on Don't Fall Asleep. We had 2 great sound engineers, and for some reason, it just happens in filmmaking. And for some reason, that audio file, it was like the bane of our existence. I remember
terrible.
we were round robining that for the longest time, and thank God for Dakota Thomas, who came in and saved us. But it's, you know, you never knew all of the stuff that goes in behind the scenes. And I'm so thankful that we have learned all of this stuff. Like, even just, I keep bringing it up because it's sitting right here, but Diandra got a new toy to film with.
I know.
And it's fun. Like,
oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And we keep talking about like, oh, we're going to go to this convention. Let's do this. And we're like, yes, we'll get together and we'll do it. And like, there's so much like juice, going on. The creative juices are flowing on this project. I don't even know if my sentence or that point I was making made sense, because I feel like I'm falling asleep.
Well, listen, don't fall asleep.
I'll try not
We have a long night ahead of us.
I know we do. We do. We have to do a lot of stuff. But did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that you don't know about our group of friends. We can talk for hours. We will start on a subject and end on a completely different subject, but we'll circle back at some point.
And we speak each other's language.
We do. We get it.
And there you go.
Yeah.
But I know that I have really enjoyed talking to Paige about all this stuff going on, not only with Fred Hez, but on Elm Street Radio. I mean, getting to talk to some of the people that we've had the chance to talk to and really pick their brains and hear them. I mean, we got to hear Ira Hayden sing Dream Warriors. How many times in your life does that happen?
We finally got the answer to why Nancy's streak flipped.
Exactly. And how Freddie became silly later on and what the reason was behind that. Pretty much in that same episode with Mick Strawn. Go check it out. It's on the page. Yeah, we've got a lot of insight. And it's great because one thing about Elm Street Radio is that it's almost like fireside chat, you know. And Jack Shoulder said it when we interviewed him. You know, he's been interviewed a lot, but it's really, we've talked about things that pretty much a lot of people haven't, or brought up points, or just said things that were very different. I guess that's what happens when you think about Nightmare a lot and you talk about Nightmare a lot, is you just get a different appreciation of it, and just certain things pop in your head. And it's been really great to just talk to everybody in the Nightmare films, because just as people, because that's really what they are. I mean, people out there, I know that I used to be like, oh, Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, but you just see them walking down the street, maybe eating hot wings. Maybe they enjoy some wine every now and then. Maybe, you know, they wear that same brown leather satchel to every convention, but they're still a person, you know, they're unique over there. And it's just great to get to talk to them. But you think back, like, to the very beginning. What are some of your earliest memories of being a Nightmare fan, that, like, you look back at that moment and you look now, like, what you're doing, and what was it in the beginning, like that giant stretch of time?
In the beginning, I was a kid jumping off of my grandma's recliner, pretending to be Nancy and falling through the mirrors. From that to now having a solid friendship with the woman who played Nancy is mind-blowing to me. Not only that, but I have made the friends that I have made because of the films. and then to make a film about the film. It's a whole paradox.
And then to make your film based off of the film with somebody from that film playing that character.
Yeah. It's a journey. What about you?
I remember it being summertime, and I was a little older when I became a fan. But I remember sitting on the floor of my bedroom on this blue carpet, and it smelled like summer. On my little orange DVD player, portable DVD player, I would watch the Nightmare films in a corner because I didn't want my parents to know that I was watching them. And I would go to the video store before I owned the box set and rented out those DVDs over and over and over again, and just sitting there and watching them and being like, oh, I really like this movie so much. I can't stop watching this. And then so many years later, all this stuff has happened. It's just...
You've got to play Nancy in a film. Like, that's crazy. You went from being a fan, watching it in secret, to playing Nancy in a film, to now producing a documentary about this genre, to hosting a radio show that is so influential, and it's very influential. It's crazy what you have built. It's crazy what I have built, and it's crazy what we've built together.
I know, I was just going to say that, this whole, everything you've mentioned, who's been a part of every single bit of it? The both of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine doing any of this without you. I'm going to get all sappy and teary eyed. I'm not going to
cry. Someone's going to cry.
And we have not had any wine. We haven't had any wine, just water and Chinese food.
Maybe it's party time.
I'm definitely ready for a glass of wine to wind down and...
Wind down. Oh, boy.
It's been good.
You, Paige.
I love you too, Dee. They say if you are friends with somebody for more than, 8 years or 9 years? I don't know, but we've been friends for 10 years.
Yeah.
That you're stuck together. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for what's to come for Elm Street Radio. We've got a lot of stuff planned.
Yeah. Fred heads, and who knows, beyond that, filmmaking.
Yes.
See you on the red carpet. Well, I think that there's so much we could continue to talk about, but you'll just have to tune in next time and check out Fred Heads. Or catch us on the convention floor, for that matter. Or on Facebook or wherever. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere, for sure. This was a really great episode, and thanks for being my partner in crime.
Thanks for being mine.
And cut. I don't want to cry.